What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about a card that released in Brothers of Legend that has a lot of people talking, and with good reason. Piri Reis map is a spell card that was released. It's been in the anime for a while. It was one people talked about potentially getting released at some point, although it has some additional drawbacks that it did not have in the show, but the reasons behind that sort of make sense. So we're going to get into it, talk about the card itself, and some of the best targets for it, and whether or not those cards are going to be significantly boosted by this card's existence. So with that being said, we're going to jump into the video. If you guys do enjoy, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos. We've seen a ton of growth lately, and I'm really grateful for it, so thank you to everyone who has subscribed and checked out the videos. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about this card. Do you think it has real potential? Because I think it's kind of slept on, and I'm excited to try it out in certain things. With that being said, let's read the effect first so we can talk about it a little bit more clearly. It is a normal spell that reads as follows. At the start of your main phase 1, add one monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, but have your life points. After adding it to your hand until the end of the next turn after this card was activated, you cannot activate the added monster's effects or the effects of cards with its name until you normal summon that monster or a card with its name. So what does that mean? You can add any monster from your deck to your hand with 0 attack, which is great. That's a huge search pool, and a lot of really powerful cards fit that description. At the start of main phase 1 means this has the same clause as Pot of Extravagance. You can't like search it or draw into it and play it later. You have to play it as the first card you play in your main phase 1, which is a bit restrictive, but typically Extravagance, for example, has that drawback of not being able to draw for the rest of the turn. This doesn't have any drawback other than the fact that you have to play the monster that you search. And since in some scenarios the monster you're searching is going to be your combo starter, it's not that unreasonable to think you would search it and then play it. So this drawback is sort of minimal, and having your life points is definitely a bit problematic. I understand a lot of people play things like Solemn Strike, and it's not hard to find yourself in a situation where you can get OTK'd easily, but I think the life point cost doesn't matter enough if you're getting to combo pieces that really allow you to go off and build on whatever it is you search. So that in mind, let's take a look at some of the targets for this card, whether or not they're going to be boosted as a result of this. And it's really only fitting, of course, that the first one is BEAUTUNAFUL Princess. Now, Shark is one of the decks that I've been playing for a while. I'm a huge fan. I think it's really fun. And I didn't realize until I was actually researching for this video how good of a card the map was in the deck because it searches Princess. BEAUTUNAFUL Princess is the best card Fish has access to, bar none. It's a Lone Fire Blossom that can dodge certain negation like Valor and Impermanence, and it does so much to just really get your play started, to get your Lantern Shark from deck or get your Buzzsaw Shark from deck, and allow you to go off and at least ensure that you're setting up a couple of combos, whether it's, you know, one Toad and a Draco, or multiple Toads and a Draco, or the new number 4 Stealth Kraken. There's 1,000 different combos you can do just with BEAUTUNAFUL Princess, and we don't really have a way to search it outside of drawing into it with Pot of Desires, which is a gamble, obviously, and may not always pan out the way you want it to. Now, with Piri Reis map, we guarantee that we have 6 chances to get access to it instead of 3, which is obviously double, and basically means it increases your consistency a ton. Because BEAUTUNAFUL Princess activates on its normal summon anyway, searching it and then summoning it is basically the same thing you do if you had it in your hand. You're just increasing the chances that you see it, which again is a really powerful thing for the deck to have access to. I'm absolutely going to be playing the card in this deck and playtesting a bit more extensively, but in the short amount of testing that I've done, it has never once really been a dead draw, and worst case scenario, if you already do have BEAUTUNAFUL Princess, you can search an Ash Blossom or an Effect Veiler to have for the next turn. It's a bit slower and not the ideal way to play it, but at least you're not bricking the card if you already go through your tunas or banish them with Pot of Desires. Next up is NUMERON Wall. Now, obviously, NUMERON is a bit less competitively viable versus some of these other decks. However, back when Utopic Zexal was legal, it was definitely an engine that people liked, and I still think the engine has a ton of potential. Being able to search NUMERON Wall and then summon it, allowing you to get your NUMERON network directly from the deck, basically increases the consistency of that deck, as NUMERON network is sort of integral to the entire combo working. NUMERON Wall himself can send himself to grave by discarding, but you can also normal summon him and then send him to the grave, and that means you can fulfill the restriction there that the map places on you. NUMERON Wall is kind of a neat card in the sense that it essentially acts as another copy of Terraforming while also having a hand trap sort of battle protection thing going for it. It's a neat card, and overall it really does get that benefit of the map being able to search it, allowing you to further consistency boost your overall NUMERON package, which I think is great. Next up, KOZMO TINCAN is one of the most important pieces of KOZMO. We've talked about that deck before. I played it at the Remote YCS earlier in the year, and it's still a deck that's a little too slow to compete in the current meta. However, TINCAN is important, and getting access to TINCAN is what allows you to get the gears moving on all of your combos. Being able to search TINCAN with the map at the start of your turn is a hugely integral part of that whole, basically getting the ball rolling, like I said. Now, TINCAN, of course, does have to activate during the end phase, so it is a little bit stagnated in terms of you search it, and then you summon, you set your stuff. You're not going to be doing a ton during that turn necessarily, but KOZMO doesn't usually play that way anyway. If you can get access to this, having 2 E-Telly, 3 copies of map, and 3 copies of TINCAN on its own, that's 8 cards out of a 40 card deck that's going to allow you. That's a 1 in 5 and increases the odds significantly of being able to get the ball rolling. And for a deck that does struggle with dead draws and bricking, Piri Reis map should do a ton to help KOZMO get a little bit extra consistency and sort of do its thing a little bit better, if you will. Now, Zodiac Rapier is a card that many people are familiar with. Zodiac dominated the meta for a long time back in 2017 and 2018, and even earlier this year, late last year, as we got some of the cards back off the ban list, and the Tri-Brigade cards came out, sort of forming a new package there. We saw the Zodiac cards get hit on the most recent list, albeit not necessarily justified what they hit, but Zodiac is an engine that people love and a deck that people will always go back to try to play. You can do Zeus combos, you can do Barrage combos, there's so many different ways to play it, and even if, you know, right now it's not at its peak, it's reasonable to assume that at some point that package will reassimilate itself into the meta. Now, Rapier is the best combo starter that the deck has, being able to both mill a Zodiac card and allow you to special summon another copy of itself if it's attached to an Xyz monster, so normal summoning this is actually good. In most cases, it's something that you want to do versus something that you have to do. Being able to search this thereby increases a deck that already has some consistency, but as we know, with Barrage getting limited and Tanky getting list attention, it was reduced a lot. So do you want to be able to play the Zodiac package in something? The map will definitely make it a lot easier to get access to this and sort of get your plays going. ANIMADORNED ARCHOSAUR is a card that has seen a ton of play, of course, in Dinosaur. Now, that deck did get some hits, but I think it's still a really powerful card, and a card that has more application than just Dino in certain engines and packages due to the fact that it can search Reptiles, Sea Serpents, and Winged Beasts, as well as any of the Evolution spell cards. Evolution pill cards, my apologies. ANIMADORNED ARCHOSAUR is a really good combo piece that you want to get access to, and it's one of those cards that you can search off the map, normal summon, and basically ensure that you're able to get going in Dinos and increase the consistency, which I think is probably one of the best uses for this card. Obviously, Dinos are still meta relevant, though they're not like tier 1 anymore due to those hits. They can still top and make a presence in competitive events, and having access to one of their most important starters now increased is definitely going to help the deck a bunch. So I think ARCHOSAUR benefits a ton from the map, probably more than any of the other decks we've talked about so far, simply because it's actually a meta-relevant card in a meta-relevant deck. Now, Dark Beckoning Beast is a card I had to include on here just because I have an affinity for Sacred Beasts, and I do find the deck to be really fun to play. And one of the biggest things that that deck actually has hurting it is the fact that it does sort of lose to one hand trap or lose to one sort of interruption in your combo. And while this doesn't necessarily stop that, what it does is it allows you to get Dark Beckoning Beast to hand, which allows you to then summon Dark Beckoning Beast, go off, grab Opening of the Spirit Gates, and just overall increase the consistency of the deck and not have to rely solely on things like Desires and Gates. You're now being able to get these extra cards. The cool part about it for Sacred Beast is cards like Chaos Summoning Beast and Dark Summoning Beast, as well as I think even Uriah, are all monsters that have 0 attack, so there's more search targets in that deck than just this, which means you don't necessarily have to worry about searching exclusively one thing. You can kind of pick and choose what works for you, and most of them all have effects that trigger off of a normal summon, so there's no reason to sort of worry about that drawback negatively impacting you. Knightmare Corruptor IBLEE is another one that I saw a few people mention when I was looking around at threads talking about the card, and this is definitely a neat card. I don't know that it sees as much play right now as it did back then, but what it would do is give you the ability to utilize this in a more disruptive way, because you can summon it, bring out a link, and then send it to grave, summon it to the opponent's field. You can actually search this a lot more easily. You don't have to do the Signet mining way of searching it necessarily, and discard a card, putting yourself at an inherent minus, which is a cool little thing. Again, IBLEE is sort of on the outside of the meta looking in right now, but there's always a possibility that it could come back in, and if it did, being able to get better access to it is certainly not a bad thing. DD Savant Kepler is a card that a lot of people have talked about, and I think there's a couple of other DD cards that have 0 attack as well, but Kepler is a good combo starter, and as we know, DDD is getting support in Battle of Chaos that will definitely help the deck, which has already been a fan favorite and arguably a meta deck at one point before the Master Rule changes kind of hindered things. I do think DDD is a deck that can lose to hand traps and interruptions pretty easily, but I think being able to get access to more of their cards more effectively is not a bad thing, and it's cool that the map can search multiple targets in the deck. Kepler is just the best example that I could think of, and obviously people would look around and sort of decide what works best for them when deck building, but it's never a bad thing to have extra consistency, especially one with some minimal drawback. Now, DDD does have the drawback of life point costs being part of their cards, but they also have cards that gain life points, so there's an up and down sort of swing that might actually allow you to work things in your favor depending on the approach that you take to deck building. So that's going to bring us through all the cards for Piri Reis map, and I just really wanted to take a look at it and talk about the card. I think it's completely slept on. I didn't even showcase half of the targets that it has, and I just wanted to at least put it out there and get the ball rolling on the discussion. Sort of, what do you guys think? What decks do you think benefit from this the most? Do you think this card is slept on as like a $1 to $2 secret rare right now? Will people likely chase after it at some point, and are you planning on using it in anything? So I want to hear from you. Let me know what you guys think. Hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.